retrospect, I'm so glad I went. To begin with, from Tehran to Shiraz, Shiraz to Awaz, Awaz to Mashhad, and from Mashhad to Hamadan, I found the Iranian people incredibly friendly, anxious to display their hospitality and show off their homeland. Contrary to what I was led to expect, not everybody was reticent to have their picture taken or to speak on camera. I don't think there's anybody we asked if we could take a picture with them, or whom we asked to say something on camera, who said no. In fact, some were asking us if they could take pictures with us. But let me show you what I mean about their willingness to take pictures with us. Let's begin with Awaz. I and our Iranian team of 2 had just landed. We hadn't even gone to our hotel, but stopped on the street to buy falafel. Look at him. The man making the falafel seems quite comfortable on camera, doesn't he? So do these 3 ladies. This wasn't an isolated instance either. I'd get the shock of my life a day or 2 later from another group of women. Though officially illegal, but widely ignored, these we saw openly smoking their pipe. It's called a gelyoun. Once they heard I was Jamaican, one pounced on the unfortunate stereotype and made some rather humorous remarks about Jamaican marijuana that suggested I should automatically have known something about the plant. But that's not our focus today. I think you get the point. These were not closed-minded women, but women who were quite liberal in their thinking. And by the way, lest you misinterpret what's being said here, I'm not condoning smoking marijuana at all. In fact, I think worldwide people are killing themselves and frying more than their brains with this weed. But this encounter did lead me to question, was this really Iran? I didn't even know women smoked in Iran. One member of the group was bold, very bold, and had this to say.
All of the Iranians, women and men, just fight for our freedom. I put my scarf and I smoke, we drink, we laugh, we dance in the street, and we don't care. Just fight for our freedom.
But it wasn't just a willingness to speak to me. It was their openness and kindness too that made me feel so welcome. From the lady at the bazaar in Shiraz who gave me a bracelet featuring King Darius, or this one sitting on the steps at the same bazaar close to her husband who didn't mind her being photographed with me. From these, or the poet a few steps away from the women, here in this bookshop, that poet and artist who burst forth with a song for me, they were also very, very warm and engaging. As a result of this, the prospects of war have become very personal to me now. Why? Because it envelops them all. I now have friends in Iran. And, lest we forget, contrary to what the national anthem suggests, bombs don't just burst in air. They fall to the ground and most times kill people. It's against this backdrop of possible war with the United States that the incredible friendliness I encountered in Iran must be measured. That friendliness began in Tehran, where I landed. Within hours of arriving in Iran and a good night's sleep at a safe, clean hotel, we were headed to another airport to catch a flight to Shiraz, but not before stopping at a local diner for a breakfast of lentils and love. The owner didn't have to be asked if we could take his picture. He stepped outside and was ready to have his picture taken with me. Beside his diner was this bakery, no doubt from which his little eatery got its bread. Our photographer didn't hesitate. He just seemed to waltz right into the bakery and started taking pictures. At one point I thought I was going to end up in the kitchen too, but felt that would have been too intrusive and stayed just outside where the customers stayed. The pictures we were getting were fine just the way they were. I didn't have to invade their space to get any picture taken with them. Oddly enough, I'd seen similar scenes from an Anthony Bourdain show on CNN barely a week or two before leaving for Iran. So I wasn't unfamiliar with the way they prepared their bread. Now let me tell you what I'm hoping to accomplish with these shots. I'm hoping to show you a side to Iran that the press might not be showing you. Now let's make no mistake about it. You're not going to see everywhere we went or everything we shot in today's telecast. Most of the shots from the palaces and tombs needed for our full production, that's Cyrus the Great and the prophecy of Daniel 9:25, we're holding back. What we will continue to show you, though, are shots of some of the people with whom we interacted. People, as I said, who made us feel right at home, wherever we were while in Iran. Take this fruit shop in Mashhad, for example. Here the owner joyously responded with a plate full of washed fruit when it was explained to him by one of our guides that I was a visitor to their country. All of a sudden I became his guest too. Close to the border with Afghanistan, all he knew about Jamaica was that we have some of the fastest sprinters on the planet. Enthused, he and his staff just kept on giving, kept on smiling, kept on making me feel like a king. While at that shop, I ate melon and cherries and took back to the hotel 2 delicious mangoes from Pakistan. I ate them, skin and all. Was this the country that was supposedly one step away from war? Honestly, it didn't seem that way to me. God knows I'd come to Iran to work, to travel to 5 specific cities, and while there to take pictures for our book and capture film for our telecast. But these people were quickly becoming the stars of the show. They made all our running up and down in Iran, that's 4 more flights and 4 more hotels in 8 days, plus a long car drive back to Tehran. They made it seem not like work at all. Even the crew I was with, they didn't want me to carry my own luggage or even so much as to open the car door. They were usually right there ahead of me, opening the door for me, making me feel so respected, so at home, and dare I say it, so loved. As for the men and women on the streets, we might not have been speaking the same language, but warmth and hospitality are a universal language, aren't they? As for this artist on your screen, I never laid eyes on him before. Not one day in my life, this man who produced these carvings and who gets around only by bicycle. If war breaks out, this man could be dead within days. Through an interpreter, he had said something about sensing energy in this curious tourist, that's me, and asked if he could sing me a song. That was a strange request. But that's what I mean about respect and love. Why would he want to sing a song to me? I'm told the lyrics of his song came from one of Islam's prophets. But of course I said yes. He was more than free to sing if that's what he wanted to do.
مرا عشق روی بیچاره کرده بیچاره کرده بیچاره کرده بیا ای کوهان دشت آواره کرده آواره کرده آواره کرده یارم مشکل پسنده یارم مشکل پسنده مشکل پسنده مشکل پسنده مشکل پسنده.
I didn't understand a word of his song, but when somebody asked if I wished to sing one in return, I was eager to respond. What would I sing? That's a surprise that I'll save for the end of our telecast. Please remind me to come back to it, or I'll surely forget. Once again, why am I sharing these clips with you? Because I want you to see the faces of everyday men and women in Iran, people who impacted me while I was there. These are people who, perhaps even before this video is finished, could be on the receiving end of all kinds of military mayhem. I'd like this clip, this report of our stay in Iran, to possibly make a difference before any of that happens. Most watching what I'm about to say may think me mad or unrealistic, but who knows? Maybe we can induce CNN to pick it up and run with it, and maybe even help stop this impending war. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but I believe that. One more before I go. I've got to tell you about this little girl. Her name is Katayoun. At the airport in Mashhad, on the way to our last city, Hamadan, where we visited the tomb of Esther and Mordecai, by the way, passengers were put on 2 buses that had to taxi out to the aircraft. While on our crowded bus, unknown to me, this little girl had asked her mom and dad if she could say something to me in English. It turns out she had been taking English lessons overseas where they live and was frustrated in Iran because she could hardly find anybody who knew English. Evidently, her parents had given permission for her to speak to me, and in short order I heard the sweetest little hello, sounding like it was coming from somewhere around my waist. This little girl, blushing and beaming at the same time, had overheard me speaking to our guides in English and opted to chime in. Later on the flight, as you can see here, I'd snap a few pictures with her and her family before we disembarked. Now here's what I mean by friendly. Do you know that that family whom we had just met invited us to have dinner with them that night? Perfect strangers, yet we were being invited to eat out with them. Now, that didn't happen, I should tell you. It turns out that night they were bombarded by relatives who were excited to see them home after 3 years. These relatives simply wouldn't let them get away. But sure enough, they were at our hotel in the morning, which is where these clips and shots were taken. One scene particularly tugged at my heart. Remember now, I'm in Iran, where, from what I've read on the internet, from what I've read everywhere, strict rules of propriety prevail, and where some ladies cover themselves from head to toe. While I was standing by Katayoun, hands by my sides, her father reached over to me, he was to my right, gently took my right hand and placed it on Katayoun's shoulder. Maybe sensing that I was unsure about the rules of familiarity in his country, he was actually allowing me to touch his daughter and to show affection to her. In that moment, I knew everything I'd been experiencing in Iran had been no mirage. These people weren't pretending. They were loving beyond words. Was I, a Christian, being outloved by Muslims? One Iranian to whom I spoke here in the United States corrected me. His take was this: the Iranian people were hospitable before Islam came to Persia. And that hospitality goes way back to Cyrus, that's Cyrus the Great, who was a very benevolent man and who was anointed by God. What he was saying is that Cyrus, as inscribed on the Cyrus cylinder, housed now in the British Museum, Cyrus passed on to the Persians or Iranians the tradition of being fair and kind and hospitable to all people. Was it not he who issued the decree to release the Jews who'd been held captive by the Babylonians? An interesting take, that tidbit about Cyrus being anointed by the God of the Jews is found in Isaiah 45 and verse 1, which reads, "Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him." Cyrus, King Cyrus of Persia, Cyrus the Great, anointed by God. 9 days in this country, and not only did I have new friends, God knows, based on what I'm about to show you, I had a brand new perspective about Islam too. Friend, God was doing something to me and for me. I'd come to Iran for one purpose, to capture video and photographs, but evidently God had something even more basic that he wanted to show me. The love of that family was one of them, but there was more.